Nowhere in the country can you walk into a sports bar and be guaranteed to see women's sports on any TVs. If you're lucky, maybe you'll find a game on in the bar's back corner. It's mostly been a place to gather to watch men's sports. Thankfully, that's starting to change. The first ever sports bar to play only women's sports has opened its doors in Portland, Oregon to rave reviews. Something owner Jenny Nguyen never thought possible as a young girl growing up playing basketball.
Portland is a very unique town. It's got some metropolitan vibes to it, but also has that kind of homey, really tight-knit community feel to it. I knew in my heart that if it didn't make it here, it wouldn't make it anywhere.
What did you think when you first walked in and saw that there were women's sports on every TV?
I loved it.
Honestly, it brought tears to my eyes.
It's just been so popular that this is actually the first day we've been able to get inside.
We got here 3 hours before the game started, just so we could get this table.
And I'm so glad somebody stepped up to take the risk to open a sports bar for women.
The Sports Bra opened its doors 3 short months ago, but the concept of only showing women's sports in a bar started when a group of friends got together to watch a championship final.
Ogunbowale for the win! Good!
It was like the best game I'd ever seen. And it wasn't until after the game was over that somebody in my group was like, the game would have been so much better if the sound had been on. And that's when it really dawned on me that I had gotten so used to watching women's sports in a compromised way. And it was at that moment that I was like, we need our own place.
What made you want to start it right now?
When 2020 came around and the pandemic happened, and then there were all the social justice movements after George Floyd was murdered, the U.S. women's national team fighting for equal pay, all of these things were kind of churning in the world. I just didn't know how I could contribute. And my girlfriend was like, hey, you know how you always joke about the sports bra? And I was like, yeah. And she goes, why don't you do that? And so when it got to the point of thinking really hard about what a space like that would mean and represent, I thought, okay, maybe this could make a difference in our community at least. To bring something back to my hometown that could have a little positive impact felt really good to me.
Not everyone was sold on her vision. After being rejected by 5 different banks, Jenny decided to launch a Kickstarter program to help raise the necessary funds.
I knew that I needed $48,000 to make it happen. So I was afraid that it was just asking too much from a bunch of strangers. So I was just like, I'm just gonna ask for 30. I think that sounds like a much more reasonable number. And my girlfriend was like, well, what are you gonna do for the rest of the money? I was like, I don't know, I'll figure it out. She goes, I think you should just ask for what you need. And I think that that is something that will stick with me forever, to ask for what you need. Because I think as women, we oftentimes will take the crumbs and be happy with it. And so once donations started pouring in from all across the country, I started to really believe that this could happen.
But those closest to Jenny still needed some convincing.
My parents were absolutely not on board at the beginning. And a lot of it has to do with fear. I'm an only child. They immigrated from Vietnam during the war, and they've worked so hard to get to where they are. I told my mom, I go, Mom, I love you. I know you're afraid, but there's nothing you can do to stop me. This is happening. And then after that, she was like, okay.
So the Sports Bra, genius name. How did you come up with it?
I was running it in my head and I was like, okay, if we did have our own place, what would we call it? And the Sports Bra was the very first name that popped in my mind. It was just it wrote itself. So why don't all we do is change those 2 letters? And then it's funny. And then right after that, I was like, oh, I know, we support women. Hilarious, right?
The support for Jenny and the Sports Bra can be seen from every corner of the bar.
So I put out a little thing on Instagram asking people for chintzy awards or little souvenirs or anything like that. It got to the point where even now I'll still get 3 or 4 packages every day from strangers all across the country. Signed shoes, autographed jerseys. People want to be a part of what we're building here.
Do you think that it would even be created right now if it weren't for Title IX?
Absolutely not. We're standing on the shoulders of people who have worked so hard and fought so hard for us to be exactly where we are. And without Title IX, I don't believe that we would even have anything on our TVs, period. It's far from over, but it started a long, long time ago. And we're making progress, obviously. And I just feel grateful and very privileged to have been a domino in this wave of dominoes falling towards equity for women in sports.
Incredible job by our very own Alicia Jay telling the inspiring story of Jenny Nguyen in the sports bra.